Now, another part of the whole thing with the M14 and the AK that these two have in common to varying degree is the reception by people. A lot of people like to look at these two weapon platforms, the M14 and the AK47, and say they're obsolete. I don't know how many times I've had people tell me the M14 is obsolete. To me, obsolete would mean that these two weapons would not be used in any capacity whatsoever. And that's not true, because right now both of these weapons are being fielded by troops in the Ukraine. Yes, the M14 has made its way to the Ukraine war, and the AK-47 is there by default because, you know, that's Eastern Russia, and variants of the AK, mostly 5.45 AKs, I'd say 5.56 AKs, but I've seen pictures of 7.62x39 AKs in battle. So both of these are being fielded in war, so can't really, me personally, I really don't see that as being obsolete. To me, obsolete would be like the Brown Bess from the Revolution. How many of those are still being fielded? How many of those are still being used actively in war? Very few. Probably none. And part of the reason I contribute that neither one of these is obsolete is the ammo they shoot. Both still being modern cartridges, even though both are very old. Well, old. 308 being designed in the 1950s. 308 came about in 1952, modeled after 300 Savage, which in of itself was a shortened 30-06 to varying degrees. Like I said, when it comes to details like that, my memory's fuzzy. But 308 came about in 1952, was adopted by NATO in 1954, and 7.62x39 was designed, I do believe, in 1943 for another weapon, but it never got to see actual combat. Or if it did, it was very limited, because I do believe there are field reports, if I am remembering to the best of my ability, that this was actually used in combat on some Nazi soldiers, like in the Battle of Stalingrad, or a little bit, it'd have to be after the Battle of Stalingrad. It was like as the Germans were retreating from the Soviet Union. But this cartridge has its origins in World War II. In fact, I do believe the official designation of 7.62x39 is the M43 cartridge. Of course, you know, since the Cold War and all the way up until the modern day, there's been like 1,000 different designations by several different Warsaw countries and nations alike. This cartridge has been all over the world in several different conflicts, and so has the AK. But it has its origins in World War II. Like I said, I could be wrong, but it is very prolific and has been around for a very long time and has been chambered in many different guns. Same with 308. So to say that either one of these is obsolete, in my mind, when I get told that, I just kind of have to laugh. When I get told a weapon system is obsolete, I just picture a clown on a unicycle riding in front of traffic and then getting hit by an 18-wheeler. That's the kind of hilarity that I see when I hear a weapon system is obsolete. And when I say that, it's just a self-defeating, you know, label. The whole clown riding in front of an 18-wheeler on a unicycle. You know, self-defeating. You're on a unicycle and you're riding out in front of a semi. You know, you can't get more ridiculous than that. And that's how when I get told the M14 and the AK are obsolete, that's what I picture in my head. So, to me, neither one of these are obsolete. They're just older rifle systems, but they still have a place. They both still shoot modern ammunition, because 7.62x39 is still available copiously on the U.S. market. And then 308 I don't think is ever going to go away. And many nations to this day still use the 7.62x39. So obsolete is just a word. Now when it comes to a versus, like I've said, I've went over both weapons histories with varying degrees of detail errors, I'm pretty sure. Because like I said, the AK47, I've heard the story of how this one was manufactured and I've read it several times. But back in my younger days, when I was much more avid AK fan, still an avid AK fan. If I wasn't, I wouldn't own one, but I do. But when I would relay the origin stories to people, you know, I'd get crucified because there's always somebody that would come up and they'd have a different version of it. And it always changes. So, you know, the origin story I gave for this rifle is the one that I've been retold and heard. So, probably some details wrong, and I accept that. So, I'm laying that out there. And then I've gave the development cycle for the M14. But the real versus between these two versus, I'd have to say, comes down to the parts and stuff you can equip the weapons with. To put it bluntly, I upgraded the AK or M70ZPAP for a lot less money than I did my M14. But as you can see, not to say that the M14 can't be customized. As you can clearly see, I've did a really good job customizing my M1A MBS Scout Squad. But the chassis system, the Delta 14 stock that I got for it, was like $500. And then after that, I went through the liberties of adding a expensive stock set to it. Because why not? I got a Daniel Defense stock set with these really nice textured grips and the cheek pad on the stock here, and I got it in Tornado Gray. But that was my choice. I decided to put that more expensive stock set on the rifle, along with the Delta 14 chassis. Although I will say the Delta 14 chassis, if you're looking to upgrade your M14, that's one of the best ways to go. Because you can add all this stuff to your rifle. I mean, you can add AR-15 buffer tubes, buttstocks, pistol grips, foregrips. The world's your oyster. And it's only $500, and the chassis system does not weigh virtually anything at all to begin with. Personally, I'd say this is a better deal than the EBR, although I've never used an M14 in the EBR. But I've heard the EBR adds weight to the system and all that. So, you know, give or take, I'm not dissing or saying the EBR system is bad for the M14, but I'm just saying this one is like $400 cheaper, and you're not adding any weight to the system yet. I chose to add more weight to it by adding a purse and flashlight because I wanted it to mirror my M70ZPAP. But like I said, Delta 14 chassis, $500, whereas my M70 came with the M-Lock rail system that I just added rails and a purse to, and then it came in with a built-in cheek riser and adjustable stock. So upgrade wise, the two, that's only where the real departing factor to get into a versus type thing where one has an edge over the other is the M70 was a lot less money to upgrade than the M1A M14. But clearly, as you can see, I own both of them, so it's, to me, it's not a big deal. But I mean, for a lot of people, if you're not wanting to get into the whole realm of you know, or spending a lot of money on a weapon, the AK is the better option. But that too falls into another realm of what the M14 has over the AK. Naturally, with the AK or the M14 being 308, having this much bigger cartridge, much more powerful cartridge, you're going to get a lot more flavor and variety with your ammo selection. Do believe the highest grain weight bullet I have seen for 7.62x39 is like 124. I'm sure there's probably heavier versions that are out there, but they're probably subsonic. I could be wrong, but the flavor for the M14 and 308, you can get bullet weights from like 110 all the way up to 190 grain, 200 grain, although I wouldn't recommend 200 grain bullets for your M14, but and you can get them on all sorts of different bullet types. You can for the AK2 at 7.62x39, they have hollow points, soft points, all that, but I've personally, now this probably comes down to my own philosophies of use and experience. Remember, I'm not using this as a platform to diss one rifle more than the other. I'm just bringing up varying degrees of difference in the two to kind of give you guys an idea of what one may have over the other, but that's not as like, oh well, the M14's better than the AK, or the AK is better than the M14. That's not what I'm doing. But I have two M1As. The second M1A I have is an M1A loaded with a 22-inch barrel, and it's set up with a Redfield Revolution 4-12. This has a 4-power Leupold on it, long eye relief scope. My other one's more traditional, like kind of looks like an M21, you know, traditional stock and all that, but it's camoed and all that. But I use it for hunting, and that's where my variation in 308 flavors come from, because for that rifle, it being a hunting rifle, I could use it in the tactical sense too, because it's camoed up, and it's you know, I could use it as a sniper rifle. But when I would use it for hunting, hunting ammo is what I'd go for. So stuff like soft points and hollow points, flex tips, all that was, you know, the M14 has all that going for it, and the AK does too. There's hunting ammo for the AK 7.62x39. In fact, 7.62x39 is a hunting cartridge from well, it's a legal hunting cartridge here in Indiana. I could easily just put a variable zoom optic on this. I could put an LVPO on this and go deer hunting with it next year. And I could get some hollow point bullets or soft point bullets and be well within total legal usage of this weapon. But that's the difference in where they fall. I started with the AK in the mindset of a close quarter CQB rifle, and I started with the M14, not this one, but my other one, with long range distance and the potential to use it as a hunting rifle in mind. So that's why my knowledge of different ammo flavors for the M1As is a lot more vast than it is the AK, because I mean, when I go shopping for ammo for the AK, Full Metal Jacket, I see cheap Full Metal Jacket and I buy that stuff up in bulk, you know. The M14, having a little bit more experience with it in the hunting realm range, when I go buying ammo for it, you know, like, oh, got some soft points, or oh, there's some hollow points. And of course I use Full Metal Jacket too, but you know, I see the hunting ammo, and hunting ammo could be used for self-defense as well. So in this little one here, that's why I got these silver tips here, because that silver tip, you know, that's a hunting bullet, but up close for self-defense, that would do some hellacious damage to the insides of, God forbid, like a burglar or somebody trying to invade the homestead. But going back to my original statement, that's where the M14 has a little bit more variety, and I know a lot of people will say that's unfair because the M14 is a battle rifle, and 308 has a lot more diversity than 7.62x39 to a certain extent. I mean, the philosophy of, the military doctrines fall into place here. You got the M14 full-length battle rifle cartridge meant for distance, and semi-automatic capability for repeatability at distance. And then you've got the AK, which was designed to be an up-close rifle because it's got a 30-round magazine. And the Soviets, I do believe, when the AK47 was made, classified it as a submachine gun, because the difference in philosophy is there. Full auto M14, semi-auto would have been the first selection, and then when you get to the Soviets, full auto is the first selection on the selector switch, semi-auto being way down here on a military AK with full auto being that notch there. So the difference in philosophies are there. So people will say that's unfair, and to a varying degree I would say yes, but at the same time I'm doing this as kind of like a comparison between the two. But really, in honesty, they both are very great weapon systems, and you could use one in place of the other very well. Although the M14 for home defense, I don't know about that because it go through walls. So I got the AK, but really I've got handguns on standby, but I've got these here too. So a final verdict, if I were to come up with a final verdict for either one of these weapons in a versus scenario, personally, as you can see, I own both of them. So really, I can't really say that I prefer one over the other, because if that were the case, I would own one and not the other. But I own both. But if I were to give, like, if it all comes down to what you want the rifle to do. If you want, and another one would be affordability, with the AK being a much cheaper option than the M14 just by design. The price of my NBS M1A by itself, not even after I added all that stuff, it was pretty expensive. I'll just say that. The M70ZPAP though, I do believe I got it for either $950 or $980, something like that. But I got this in 2021 when the bullshit gun scare crap was still going on, and things really hadn't calmed down since 2020. This is 2022, literally going to be 2023 in in another week. So really, if it comes down to philosophy of use, I've got my M70ZPAP set up for CQB. It's got EOTech attached to it with a purse and a flashlight. And then I've got my M14A4, as I've dubbed it. It's set up for CQB as well, but I've got a 4-power optic on it, and it'll soon have a SIG Tango 1-6 on it. I just haven't got down to attaching it yet. So it comes down to philosophy of use, but in all reality, if you're able to buy both, I don't know why you wouldn't buy both. Because you're getting a very nice 308 semi-auto, and then you're getting probably one of the best AK variants on the US market. I've had no issues with either one of these, and that goes for the bigger M1A loaded in my collection as well. But both are very fine weapon systems in their own right, and both would be very good to have in any collection. As you can see, I have them almost like twins in the way they're set up, and in their camo patterns. One's just got more DMR capability than the other, but 300 yards with the AK is no issue. Merfollical says he rings steel out to 500 a few times with his 7.62 by 39 AKs. So It can be done. I just haven't done it with this one, but all in all, both are very good weapon systems. But it comes down a lot to what you are wanting out of a weapon system. And personally, I don't think you'd go wrong with either one, because I've had good use with both of them. So this has been a Pliskin by 51 millimeter. I'm starting to get scratchy throat. Don't know why. And hope you all enjoyed the video of my versus video and gave you all some insight into the two weapon systems. I probably gave a lot of detail errors in the history of the AK and probably the M14 in some respects, but like I said, I'd have to write, if I wanted to get into the very fine nitty-gritty details of either one, I'd have to write it down in this video. It'd be a lot longer, so I just kind of gave a brief summary from memory and personal experience. So anyway, this has been Pliskin by 51mm. Catch you all in the next video. Peace.